Okay, thank you. All right, folks, we're going to get started here tonight. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. I know we also have some folks giving you live streaming, and also have a recording that we'll also be able to put out. So I think we'll get a lot of people, a lot of attention tonight from our event. So this is great. Thank you to all who helped set it up. I greatly appreciate it. So my name is Andrew Sheaf. I'm a Deputy Director at DCED at the Governor's Center for Local Government Services. One of my responsibilities is to oversee the Act 47 program for financially distressed municipalities, of which Shamokin is part of that program. They're a city that's been in that program since 2014. So tonight isn't so much about the past. I will say 2014, Shamokin did hit a very critical time in the city's history. Thousands of dollars in unpayable bills, health insurance was canceled, financial management was in a very difficult place. All saying that to say the city's come a long way. Their time in the Act 47 program for financially distressed municipalities is coming to an end. This year, by August of 2024, the city will have to exit state oversight in Act 47. So it's a milestone year for Shamokin, and they've come a long way, but there's still one more very critical initiative recommendation that the city still needs to complete in order to be able to exit and remain financially sustainable. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight, and that initiative is the home rule process. And I did want to say too, I have my notes here, this is the department, this is the state doing the presentation tonight, because we do this across the state. A lot of municipalities are interested in Act 47. A lot of municipalities that have exited Act 47 are interested in home rule. A lot of municipalities that have exited Act 47 have gone through the home rule process to shore up their financial situation and to really set their own path as they exit state oversight. But this is a completely city-driven, citizen-driven initiative. The state can provide guidance, we can provide technical assistance and some instructions and some insights, but it truly is a city-driven, citizen-driven initiative. So why home rule for Shamokin? Because every community is unique. Harrisburg sees every single city as exactly the same, which, as we know, as you know, it's not the case. Everybody has to abide by what's called the third-class city code, which is a code created at the dawn of time. It's very outdated, and that's why we have options to pursue avenues and recommendations like home rule. What home rule does is it removes the cookie-cutter state municipal code. It's out of the third-class city code. It allows for self-determination, self-charting, and self-determination. It permits flexibility in defining the structure, powers, and functions of the municipality. We'll talk a little bit more about what that flexibility means, but right off at the top, I would say when we're talking about flexibility, every single municipality that looks at home rule is also, they 100% look at taxation. The third-class city code only allows for a 0.5% earned income tax. Under our home rule charter, you can have more flexibility in your earned income tax rate cap. A lot of folks will do that because if you ever have to raise taxes, folks don't want to raise property taxes. Leaning more on earned income tax allows for wage earners to pay taxes to help fund city services. The earned income tax is also a tax that grows from year to year as wages increase. Property taxes is almost stagnant across the state. I'm sorry to say, but that is the truth. Home rule also creates a government that best meets the individual needs of the municipality. And that bullet point is probably the most important one. Home rule basics. I have too many things in my hand, sorry. Thank you. Home rule basics. So, at its most basic level, home rule transfers the basic authority to act in municipal affairs from state law to a locally drafted and adopted charter through election by municipal voters. Literally, a home rule means the municipality, the city makes the rules at home. At its most basic level, that's really what home rule does. Removing itself from the third class city charter, creating a new constitution for the city of Shamokin. So the initial steps for this. Thank you. The initial steps of this. City Council passed an ordinance in January to just, all they did was to place the question on the ballot for the voters to vote whether or not to form what's called a government study commission. That's about the end and the extent of City Council's role and powers when it comes to the home rule process. Because after that question is put on the ballot for a referendum vote for the citizens, if it's voted yes, so the ballot question will be on April 23rd primary vote. And the question here is, that was placed on the ballot by City Council, shall a government study commission of 7 members be elected to study the existing form of government of the municipality, to consider the advisability of the adoption of a home rule charter, and if advisable, to draft and recommend a home rule charter? So that is literally the exact question that you'll see on the ballot on April 23rd. It's not to create a whole new form of government. It's not to actually adopt a charter at that point. It literally is just to elect what's called a government study commission. This commission to study third-class city code, the city of Shamokin, and consider creating a charter that would then go back to the citizens to vote on whether to adopt or not. So who is the Government Study Commission? You just have to be registered to vote, and they're made up of your friends, neighbors who are committed to the best government for Shamokin. Any registered voter, any registered Shamokin voter can run for the commission. Commissioners are independent and nonpartisan. It's just strictly nonpartisan process. When folks decided to run, when they circulated their nomination papers, there was no Republican or Democrat identification on those papers. Strictly independent, nonpartisan. Again, this is another group of individuals who will not be council. It's another elected body to study home rule, study third-class city code, study the city of Shamokin. Even if on April 23rd you decide to vote no for home rule, you'll still want to vote for who you think would be a good commissioner. Because even if you vote no, let's say it still passes, you still have your say, and you would be one of the 7 individuals to be on this government study commission. And we have a slide of who those folks are. Are there any folks on this slide that are in this room tonight? Can I ask? Fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for circulating those papers, deciding to run and showing up tonight. Truly appreciate it. I think what we'd like to actually do is at the end of this presentation, maybe give folks who are up here that are running, give them about 2 minutes just to introduce themselves and just say briefly why you're interested or why you're running. Just keep it pretty short, but we were kind of planning on that at the end of the presentation. So thank you for doing this and thank you for showing up tonight. So we got some feedback from our last presentation, and I think, which is great. Thank you. Folks wanted to know a little bit more about what exactly a government study commission is and what it does. So we have 2 slides here that try to help to elaborate on what exactly we're looking at here. What is the role of the government study commission? Again, I've repeated this a few times, but it studies the current government structure and whether it meets the community's needs. They may recommend and draft a home rule charter to suggest improvements. Usually that study period lasts about 9 months. Okay, so this whole process can take 18 months. It's not a fast thing, it's not a quick thing that happens. It's fairly slow, it's very deliberate, and there's a lot of technical assistance and best practices to help advise the government study commissioners as they're going through this process. But again, it's very much driven by those folks and by the citizens. Their role is then to educate the public on home rule and ultimately to send something back. If they decide to draft that charter and send it back to the voters, again, under referendum, for them to vote yes or no about whether or not they want to draft the charter. These folks don't have to be experts in local government, most are. But they just, folks just need to be prepared to do some studying and try to approach this with an open mind. Because really, once you get into the details, it gets quite interesting, and there's a lot to learn as you go through this. A little bit more about their work. So voters create the Government Study Commission by referendum. They're elected, on April 23rd, you'll vote, and 7 folks will win a seat if this passes. The Government Study Commission conducts a study reviewing the current structure of the city of Shamokin, the government, and other forms of government. One of the things that almost always happens in this process is part of the best practice to go forward with this is to actually talk to other cities, talk to other mayors, talk to other city councils, talk to other folks who have gone through the home rule process. So talking to folks in the city of Shamokin, talking to folks across the state, and doing quite a bit of reading, just to really, be fully informed before, it's a 9-month process of studying. Be fully informed before making any future decision or putting anything else back on the ballot for referendum vote. So 9 months, up to 9 months for study. Then the Government Study Commission will decide whether or not to keep the current form of government or to draft a home rule charter. And that could take an additional 9 months. So we'd be looking at this whole process to culminate sometime in 2025. Probably a final vote, if the Government Study Commission decides to draft a home rule charter and goes through with that, a vote in November of 2025 most likely. And then if everything passes, a home rule municipality by January 1st of 2026. The home rule charter goes back on referendum, voters vote to accept or reject the charter. And then there's a transition period, which is actually outlined in the charter that would be written and created. A couple other things. This is an elected group of individuals. They're beholden to the Sunshine Act. So any meeting that they have is publicly advertised, when it is, where it is, it's in the newspaper. I live in the city of Lancaster. We're actually going through the home rule process right now. And they have the technology to actually videotape every single Government Study Commission meeting, which is really good. If you'd like to learn more about what it actually looks like to be in the Government Study Commission, how those conversations, what that actually really looks like, the City of Lancaster's YouTube channel, again, has everything, all the meetings. Their home rule page has all their materials, things they've studied, things they've looked at. They're really, one of the guiding principles is truly to be as transparent as you possibly can during this publicly elected group of individuals going through this process. Any questions about the Government Study Commission? Yeah.
Is it possible that at the end of the study commission's review of existing government, that home rule charter is not the direction they decide the city could go? What would happen then?
Yeah, so the question is it possible as the Government Study Commission studies the form of government, if they decide not to go forward with it, what happens then? They have to do a small report. They would take a vote whether to do it or not. If they decide not to, they would draft a pretty minor report, and then we close the books on it. Then they made a decision that actually doesn't go back to a vote or referendum. That's entirely the Government Studies Commission's decision whether or not to move forward with drafting the charter. But if they would decide not to do it, if they would like to keep everything as is, that's entirely their decision by majority vote. Yeah.
When it comes to April 23rd, first state of Pennsylvania, that's our primaries, meaning Democrats, Republicans. for the Government Study Commission and independents, we have a lot of independents in this area, will they be allowed to vote for this?
Yeah, the question is, the primaries where Democrats and Republicans vote for their chosen primary candidate, can independents vote in that election? The answer is yes. That's why from the very beginning it's nonpartisan. Yeah, but that's good to say out loud.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you for the question. There'll be time for more questions too as we get through this, and I promise I'm about halfway through. So, thank you. So components, wait. I need to get back to the charter part. What is a home rule charter? Home rule charters provide a municipality with its own unique constitution. So you're getting rid of the third class city code, cookie cutter code, and it's almost like how our founding fathers created the Constitution for the United States. The Constitution of Pennsylvania. This will be the Constitution for the city of Shamokin. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. Everything that works, everything the Government Study Commission likes about the city of Shamokin can absolutely keep. You do not have to change anything as you go through this process. Everybody that I'm aware of that's gone through this process has kept the mayor, kept the city council. That question came up in Lancaster. Can we get rid of city council? I don't know, but no one ever does that because it's a terrible idea to not have a governing body. I would not expect the question to even come up, frankly. Point being, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What works, you should probably consider keeping. Including, Shamokin can keep its current earned income tax rate post Act 47 under a home rule charter. Shamokin actually does operate outside of the municipal code. They actually do operate outside of the third class city charter right now by being in Act 47. Because when you're in Act 47, the cap when you're earned income tax is artificially lifted, removed, to provide another revenue stream to help create a more financial, sustainable situation in the city. After the exit Act 47, that power does go away. You will have to operate strictly by the third class city code. So under a home rule situation, as I said before, you can keep exactly what's working. The city of Shamokin would be able to keep their current taxation structure exactly as it is. Property taxes and earned income tax. Without home rule, that earned income tax piece goes away, which is about $900,000. There's a slide on that too. But home rule charter basic components. It's a general grant of powers to the municipality. It outlines the basic organization of the government. The governing body will remain, once the Government Study Commission, whether they decide to not do a charter, or if they put a charter back for referendum vote to the citizens, which either one of those two results would result from this process. And then they're done. They fold up shop, they go away, the Government Study Commission no longer exists after either a charter is put to vote or they decide not to draft this. Their charge is done. Obviously, your city council will remain. Those policy decisions, those meetings, those budgets, those tax rates, everything a city council does as a policymaker and as a legislative body the power stays with them. And it's really important for the Government Study Commission to not get too into the weeds with certain city operations. What you're really looking at is just a high, overarching government structure. Is there a mayor? Talk about the role, the governing body, their role, how certain high-level processes work, just at a very high level in terms of the city government structure. The specification of critical legislative and administrative procedures can be looked at. It's provision for citizen participation and reservation of specific powers to voters. Can look at mandates for desirable administrative practices and general provisions such as transition procedures and effective date. Yeah, I mean that's a little bit wordy there. But what I would say is, you're looking at the high level government structure. You can be creative. I don't want to say you shouldn't try to think outside of the box. A couple things like to think about along those lines. One thing I brought up the last time we did this presentation is that prior to 1993, citizens didn't have the right to speak at public meetings, which blew my mind when I was doing some research for this presentation. But that right didn't actually exist for citizens. It did in a lot of home rule charters. That was a key thing when people have been doing home rule charters since the 70s. That was identified in a lot of home rule charters as a right that citizens should have. Finally, in 1993, that was actually enshrined into law through the Sunshine Law, through Pennsylvania Sunshine Law. In large part because they had already broken ground along those lines through the home rule charter process, through those discussions and through those ideas and developments of charters. Another thing is we have a staff member who's from Beaver Falls City in the county of Beaver, and they actually put a stipulation in their charter where voters could propose an ordinance or the repeal of an ordinance by petition. So that's another kind of outside of the box thing, but folks do like to look at certain ways to have more citizen participation, have more transparency in governmental processes, and that's something that can also be looked at. It's important not to just talk about the overarching structure and taxation, but there's other opportunities really to make the best fit for the city of Shamokin and their citizens. Home rule municipalities on the map. It was asked last time, what do gray counties mean? Justin asked. Those are counties that have actually adopted home rule. So we have 7 counties that are actually home rule counties. It's Erie, Allegheny, Luzerne, Lackawanna, Lehigh, and Northampton. The red dots are the municipalities. So there's about 83 municipalities. Some are former Act 47 communities, Altoona, Greenville, Newcastle, Mahanoy City, to name a few. Some others which are, cities that could be in ways comparable to Shamokin, Pittston, Nanticoke. It's a borough or a city? It's comparable. City, okay, thank you. Nanticoke and Lancaster. So Lancaster's a little larger, but there's still a lot that can be taken from those situations. To be looked at, certainly that the Government Study Commission would want to be looking at places like those and probably talking to them too. So just to bring it back to the numbers here before we completely close out. But this is in large part why this is an Act 47 recommendation and initiative, and why a lot of municipalities have done this prior to exiting Act 47. Not just to fully chart their own course as they exit state oversight, but also to retain their earned income tax powers that they currently have under Act 47. Currently, the city of Shamokin levies $1.4 million through their earned income tax. If you take away the extraordinary Act 47 earned income tax powers, that leaves the city with going from $1.4 million to about $456,000. Right, so that's a whole of $912,000, which is essentially a quarter of the city of Shamokin's budget. That's revenue which can't be made up anywhere else. So the only really option at that point, if that ability and power isn't continued, is to try to cut from somewhere else. If you look on the right-hand side is the departmental expenditures. At the bottom, the total budget is about $3.5 million. Again, a quarter of that would be lost. That $912,000, I mean, you could eliminate the entire public works department, and you still wouldn't make up your lost ground from losing that taxation power you have under Act 47. Unfortunately, the only line item that is large enough to actually meet those needs is the police. And truly, the only service up there which the state can come in and provide is state police coverage. If the police department were to have a significant cut to it, the state can come in and do your auditing, your city administration, your public works. that number is very large and hanging out there. But you really want to look at it holistically though, and just think about the magnitude of losing that Act 47 earned income taxation powers, which could be kept exactly as it is in a home rule form of government. And that's really the conclusion of our presentation. We had one presentation a couple of weeks ago. March 21st at 1 p.m. at the library will be our third presentation, and we're also planning one for April 4th and April 18th. So that really brings my part to an end. Should we do home rule candidate introductions now, or take questions, do you think? I gotta remember to raise my hand.
We have a slide here.
Yes, this is our voting slide. April 23rd, the question you'll see is, shall a government study commission of 7 members be elected to study the existing form of government of the municipality to consider the advisability of the adoption of a home rule charter, and if advisable, to draft the charter? You'd be voting yes or no for that, and also voting for 7 of the candidates here. Anybody who's running, would you like to just say a few words?
Yeah.
Just briefly,
Just say who you are.
my name is Dave Kinder. In case anyone doesn't know, I think I know everyone, but maybe 1 or 2 people. I happened to be on council, or came on council in 2014 when we began the Act 47 process. So it's been a long 10 years. It's been a lot of hard work, it's been a lot of meetings, it's been a lot of help from the state and everyone they've sent up to Shamokin. And I've come to the point where I've lived here most of my life, except for the time I spent in college. It wasn't long. And I own property here, and just 2 things. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. I like the KISS statement, keep it simple, silly, and like a doctor, do no harm. If I thought that there were some other way that we could have done this without the state's help, obviously we would have. I think all the councils that I served on and worked with were them. So I just hope everyone will give us the chance to pursue this, and if, once again, it all boils down to the voters. Whether or not we do something that the voters agree with or not, it's still their choice to say yes or no to it. So that's where I'm going with that.
Do you have?
Hi, my name is Richard Ulrich. I'm your mayor. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard this story already about me, or maybe read about it, but it holds very close to me because I made a drastic mistake when this referendum was on the ballot last time. I was opposed. Not having enough knowledge of it, I went against it. But thank goodness, when I was elected mayor, you know, Ryan and our friend Jim Rose spent countless hours with me, taking me through the whole process. What I thought home rule was so outdated that I made a drastic mistake. And what I'm here tonight is to ask all of you, don't make that same mistake. We'll be safe with this study commission. We're gonna make things work with your help. this is the time where Shamokin can pull together as one and show the Commonwealth what great people we are, that we will work for the betterment of our city. Because I know, and I'll be honest, I grew up in Sunbury, but when I married, I moved down here, and I'll tell you what, I love Shamokin. I really do. And I used to often kid my former wife and say, if somebody told me I'd marry a girl from Marion Heights, have a miniature dachshund for a dog, and Doberman, and live in Shamokin, I'd have said they were nuts. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? It's been the greatest thing for me and for my family. And I really love this city. I know so many of you do, but we can't be afraid to step out. We will not hurt you on this commission, I promise. So please, give this the vote it needs and the chance for us to serve you in this capacity. Because I don't want to go to receivership. I want us to get back on our feet. And I thank you for your time. Thank you for all coming out. And sorry I bet you're here.
Thank you, Mayor. So we do have time for more questions. Folks have any?
Is there anyone else on that?
I think we covered everybody.
Mr. Sosnowski, you wish to say something, sir?
You do? Okay. Very good.
I don't know who the heck Charles Sosnowski is, but I'm Chuck Sosnowski. And I'm not your mayor. My biggest concern right now is I know the economic problems the city is facing, but if this auditorium isn't filled in the next couple meetings, Shamokin's in hurt city, I'm telling you right now. The options we're facing aren't very good. When they have that financial statement up there, and if we don't get that 2% earned income tax, where in the heck is the city gonna come up with $900,000? And when you go into receivership, you better be prepared to suffer the consequences. But they're gonna be serious, I can tell you that right now. Just looking at everything here. This auditorium should be filled with citizens from the city of Shamokin. And this is the one thing that frightens me. It's not.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions, folks? Yeah.
Just on the ballot, is it a two-question issue on the ballot? The first one is, should we have a commission? And then secondly, vote for 7 members for a commission?
It'll be one yes or no question, and then you vote for a city council. Let's say there'll be a list of the 9 candidates running for the commission, and you would check off 7.
So will that be clear? To me, it's not clear, and I'm educated.
Right.
That to me looks like a 2-part question on the ballot. And when it's on the ballot, will there be some direction that's number 1, Shadow Government Study Commission, blah, blah, blah. And number 2, please vote for a maximum of 7. To me, it should read as 2 or 1A and 1B so that voters know it is a 2-part issue. You could say yes to a commission and then you don't cast a vote for people.
Yeah.
I don't see the clarity there, the direction to a voter, especially an independent voter,
Yeah.
as mentioned, to be able to answer both questions. And can an independently registered voter answer the first as well as the second?
Yeah, and I would have just voted for this in Lancaster, and I honestly can't tell you how they structured that ballot. But we can look into it, and it might honestly be a county to county way, how they present these, like you said, probably fair to say 2 questions.
I believe it should be
Yeah,
a separate part of the ballot, but 2 areas on it. And again, I have a brain, and I'm not seeing it.
yeah,
It was separated out at the last one.
it's
It was separated out.
Okay.
but they are joined in a sense.
Oh, I understand
Yeah,
that
sure.
you're joined, but
Yeah,
But you can vote no to the question, still vote.
yes, that was my concern.
I'm wondering if you can go into layman's terms of what would happen if we decide to, if they vote no, and we go into receivership. Can you lay it out to the people that are listening online right now? What would happen?
I honestly can't say for sure. So the way the process for receivership works is the governor declares a municipality finds themselves in a situation where they can't afford services. They can't make payroll anymore. They have no money left. The way it's written in the statute is the governor would declare a fiscal emergency and charge the Secretary of DCED to petition Commonwealth Court to place a receiver into the municipality. The Commonwealth Court judge actually approves entering a receivership and would approve the individual named as the receiver. So the receiver is actually more beholden to the court than to the governor or to the city or to DCED. And the receiver's charged to do whatever it takes to fix the fiscal emergency. Then their term is for 2 years. So it's really at that point up in large part to the receiver who has a large amount of power. As long as the court approves the actions that that individual wants to take, they have large authority in a municipality. It's not a great situation. This is a person making decisions that voters might not even know. They certainly didn't elect. It's not ideal for anybody. But that's how the receivership process per statute goes forward.
So saying this to people that don't really understand too much, what you're saying is somebody from the state of Pennsylvania will come in, no councilman, no mayor, no administrator, tell them what to do. They come in, they tell you what to do, and then the citizens will look at the council, they'll look at the mayor, they'll look at the administration and say, why are we doing this? Because you didn't vote for it. So then the governor comes in and says, this person takes care of it. So that's the gist, correct?
And to follow up there, and
Sorry.
if I can, no, just to follow up, the receiver will physically be in City Hall.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a receiver right now in the city of Chester, and he has an office in City Hall. There was a challenge to his powers, and it went to the Supreme Court. And just recently, the Supreme Court ruled that the receiver could in fact take away his powers from city council members. And it's absolutely no situation that the state wants to be in, the city of Shamokin doesn't want to be in. This person's not elected by anybody in the city. There's not the power for the citizens to vote him out, or him or her out. The democratic process breaks down, truly. So that's how it is in statute.
Then I have another question, and I'm sorry for taking up a lot of your time here. And that is, if we do go into receivership, and you said that it's mostly the police department would take up most of it. And I know from being around town, people are like, well, the state police is in Stonington, not too far away. The city of Shamokin will have to pay the state, is that correct? For the use of state police to come in here also.
Actually, no. No, the state police is free.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there was under Governor Wolf's term, they had batted around the idea of charging $5 per head from any municipality that doesn't have a police force, but that was never passed through the legislature. So state police services actually is in fact free, although you don't have police officers that, for instance, patrol the municipality. They would only respond to calls, emergency calls, and then emergencies only, no patrol, and then you have to wait for them to show up too.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, this Kelly, our executive director, said they don't enforce local ordinances. It's just responding to emergencies.
And in the event of the worst case scenario, the receivership, since it's a gubernatorial appointment, that can also mean a political appointment. Non-elected, it's a politically approved appointment, which scares me a little bit in that sense, not since the commission and the decisions should be nonpartisan. If that doesn't go through, then do we run the risk of, depending on which party affiliation the governor has? Not saying that would
Yeah.
happen, but
I would say I'm not here to encourage receivership or talk about any of the good aspects of it, but it is confirmed by the Commonwealth Court. But, yeah, I mean, it's, yeah. I think you're making a very valid point. Yeah.
So, you stated about we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel if we were to implement them. So, that being said, literally, you could adopt the third-class city code with one sentence change on the EIT tax.
That's completely correct.
If we did that, does anything else go away from the state or federal as far as any kind of funding that third-class cities get? Does anything go away once we are determined or called a home rule charter?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'll just repeat it quick. The question was, if you move from being a municipal third-class city code municipality and go to home rule, do you lose anything by shedding that designation, no longer abiding under that municipal code? And the answer is no. You would more or less still, in the state's eyes, be seen as a city. You wouldn't lose any CDBG funding. You wouldn't lose any other revenue streams that you have under your current form. You don't run the risk of losing anything that you currently have by changing from a municipal code to a home rule charter.
And I brought this up at the last meeting, and I think I'd like to stress it again. The EIT tax does not take away from our senior citizens or retirees, correct?
Yeah, the question was, just to ask again, the earned income tax does not take away from the retirees. And that's also completely true. In Pennsylvania, retirement income isn't taxed. I'm looking at Ryan. He can articulate it a little bit more because he's a financial advisor. But just to say it's flat out, retirees don't pay earned income tax. The higher 2% earned income tax, they don't pay that. The risk is, if you lose your earned income taxation powers, there's only one other lever to pull, and that's property taxes. That's a tax that the school district uses, that's a tax that the county uses, that's a tax that people on fixed income, retirees have to pay. It's a tax that doesn't grow naturally, unlike earned income tax. But very good point. One worth bringing up again. Thank you.
I'd just like to also point out that, naturally, every candidate for this commission is a citizen of Shamokin. They have a vested